Graham Locke, thanks for joining us today on Trots TV. It's been a big week in harness racing, particularly on the grander scale with the Sky Racing Carnival of Miracles kicking off last Saturday night at Tabcorp Park, Menangle. Let's talk a bit about the swabbing and security strategies for last Saturday's meeting.
Certainly, Amanda. Well, it started off actually last Tuesday when stewards, prior to the Menangle race meeting on the Tuesday, stewards visited each stable early in the morning. There was about 40-odd runners during the meeting that were covered by those visits, and the stewards went back and doubled up on those visits as those horses then went to the races. So they were active around the stables on Tuesday. On Wednesday and Thursday there were 40 out of competition tests taken from runners that were in the Saturday night's meeting. The horses that were in the Chariots of Fire were in the retention barn at 12 o'clock on the Thursday, and there were samples taken from those horses as they entered the barn. They were maintained in the barn until released about an hour prior to their race on Saturday night. And on Saturday night, Harness Racing New South Wales budgeted to take a further 33 pre-race samples, predominantly for the purpose of TCO2 testing, but those samples are then sent for further testing over and above the TCO2. They're not all solely left at TCO2. And on the night we had 15 post-race samples as well, Amanda. So if you extrapolate that of the 101 horses that raced at Menangle on Saturday night, at least 50% of them underwent a sample of some description.
Okay, well, we've got another 2 big weeks coming up with this carnival. Can we talk about what's happening? Is the retention barn going to be in use for this week?
Yes, the retention barn's in use again for the 2 sprint races. So there'll be 16 horses in the retention barn, and there'll be 2 other horses, probably the emergency runners, which will be housed under security in another part of the precinct. But they'll still be under security. So the retention barn starts at noon on Friday for this week, and we expect those 2 fields of 8 to be in the retention barn by then. The usual process, they'll be examined and sampled before they go into the barn, and they'll be there till an hour before race time.
Okay, well, just obviously last week we had a lot of hot weather here in Sydney. Most of the horses that were in the retention barn seemed as though they performed well on the night at Menangle on Saturday night. What procedures were sort of undertaken to maintain the horses' welfare in such hot conditions?
Look, the normal, responsibilities, the fact that they're in a retention barn doesn't change the trainers' obligations, and obviously the professional trainers are very mindful of their horses' welfare. And we had trainers who were providing electrolytic pastes and so forth to horses up until race day, so that occurred on Thursday and Friday. We ourselves were very keen to monitor conditions in the barn, because I think I'd have no hesitation in saying they were very trying conditions, and both our veterinary surgeon and our trainers, I think, in the end have done a fabulous job. We had 2 additional veterinary surgeons on Saturday night at Menangle, and of course we're always conscious of the weather pattern leading up to the week. We're aware of the maximum temperatures that were forecast through the Bureau of Meteorology, and we become quite proficient in looking at humidity levels and the available breezes that are available in the precinct. And for those people that did attend Menangle on Saturday night, apart from perhaps leading into race 1, there was no issues at all with the comfort levels in the environment. There was mostly a breeze in the environment out in the open most of the night. So it was business as usual, Amanda. We've during this spell of hot weather, we've probably had 6 to 8 race meetings which have been subject to the Harness Racing New South Wales hot weather policy. I'm happy to say that on Saturday night, all horses were examined prior to their racing. The horses that had travelled in excess of an hour to the race meeting were also examined specifically to check their condition on arrival. And any concerns that the veterinary surgeons had post-race were followed through at all. We really only had 1 horse that we were a little concerned that had performed below par, and that was one of Mr David Aitken's horses. I think it was called Roll With Me. And that horse came forward in the race to look to be a chance prior to the home turn, and then basically paddled up the straight, and the horse was examined by two of our veterinary surgeons post-race and determined to have no abnormalities. I've since spoken to the stable, and they're currently awaiting the return of a pathology tests. They have a concern that there's a virus issue or viral issue within the stable, and they have no concerns about the condition of the horse as far as the weather was concerned.
Okay, Graham. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on for this week?
No, we go forward, Amanda, to this two sprint races over the weekend, and there'll be then activity probably next week, without giving too much away as far as out-of-competition testing is concerned again. And of course we go into the big Group 1 night Saturday week with the Miracle of Mile and the New South Wales Derby in Oaks final, so a ladyship pace, so great nights racing.
All right, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Amanda.